And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fair Life with Andrew McKee, and I am, wait for it, Andrew McKee. Sometimes I go the obvious route, but hey, what can I do? Yeah. So, hey, hey, Drew and Kurt and Jan and Katsrita and Elizabeth. Yes. And oh, and Alicia is here too. Yay. I love it that you didn't get stuck at the day job. So that's great. That is awesome, Alicia. Great to have you with us. Yeah, it has been another interesting week. I guess first off, I want to mention the whole uh, I am encoding my Facebook stream totally different than how I used to. YouTube is still the same for now, but Facebook, I'm. Well, yes. Yay! Because you deserve it and you help a lot, so it's always appreciated. And hey, Tanya, great to see you. Yeah, the Facebook stream is done a totally different way. I'm using a software encoder. I've mentioned this several weeks ago with the new computer and everything. How I have so much more computing power. I'm looking at doing a software encoder, which instead of using the hardware on my video card to do it, means I can make it a lot smaller. So it should. I'm using about 65% of the bit rate that I usually use, and I think the quality is better. So if you can take a look at the video on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, and tell me if it looks okay, if everything seems fine, no distortions, no pixelization, nothing like that, I would appreciate it because it is. Yeah, this is kind of a new testing thing to try it out, and I using 65% of the bandwidth, and honestly, it's barely. I think from my testing, the quality is actually better than what I was running before. What I've discovered in my testing is, well, the background is always going to be blurry because of bokeh on the camera. So I focused on me and not the back. So that's yeah. Uh, oh, really? Green screen? No, I don't think so. I mean, let's just what? No, I mean it's there. Um, so yeah, but no, it is. Although that would be funny one time to go ahead and just take a picture of my background and then green screen it in, and so it would look the exact same. That would actually, I might have to do that just to see if anyone notices. I think that would be funny, but no. Yeah, I mean, from my testing, it looks like the quality is better than it was, and with the software encoder at 720p, it actually does a better job than the hardware encoders. Much better. When you get to 1080p, like how I have it on YouTube, it the change I can't really see much difference, and if I start going too low, it actually doesn't help, and too low in bitrate. So I don't know. I'm still testing that, but I think this is actually good. It's not using a lot of my CPU. Like I said, my computer now is a freaking beast. It's practically a server. So I'm happy with it. But oh, and oh yeah, there is that. I do not have pets, so I travel way so much it's just not practical. I have plants now, and I'm really worried about them dying. So it's a tough one. Very, very, very difficult. Oh, the only other change really is I guess you can notice the little logo graphic here, the Fairlife with Andrew McKee. I made that a little larger because while I was looking at all of the doing all the testing on 720p, I noticed it was almost impossible to read. 1080p was okay, but not great. So I went ahead and made that a little larger than it has been in the past. You probably don't even notice, but yeah, yeah, it is something different. And as always, for those of you that haven't noticed before, I still have the same background and huh, only working on that might be a extension that you're running some sort of filter on like an ad blocker or something on your browser, or you might be using a browser that just isn't as compatible. You might try a different browser. It depends on what you're using. Sometimes some things like Safari or other um, will have some issues. And yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But Facebook just changed their whole setup a little bit last week, so that's always fun. Um, but yeah, Alicia's right. Refreshing Facebook is a way to go. But so good, good. Of course, because you're studious that way. You knew to try a couple, Opera and Firefox. Um, hmm, that is interesting. Huh. That I don't know. It's working for everybody else, so something quirky is going on with you. It might be whatever network you're on. So something to try. But yeah, the as you know, you can see that the graphic, what I have here, and I've talked about my border before, and I've always been very proud of that. I'm sure that I've shown you all that before, but it is fun, so I'll go ahead and jump on that too. Um, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I can't stop myself. So we're just gonna do that. I'm gonna show this real quick. But I love my background. It is how I did the whole moving border, and you can see without the picture, you can see that it's just a picture of gold leaf with some really cool lighting effects on it. That's just being rotated as a video. Um, and I just always thought that was really, I mean, trying to find a good border around your image that doesn't look just like a very graphic-y junk is was always a challenge. And I came across some ideas that were kind of like this and adapted it to something I would like. I thought gold leaf was just a great idea. And then, of course, the background is the same for everything. Now, that used to be, this blue background used to be a graphic that moved. It used to do a slow, sort of organic, watery kind of emotion, but nobody ever noticed it, and it took away too much bit rate from the stream. So I just went ahead and got rid of it. I went ahead and just used a static one to. Nobody noticed anyway. No, when I back on one of these streams a while ago when I mentioned it, um, some people were like, "Oh, I didn't even know it moved," but when they looked at it, they could kind of tell it wasn't worth it. And Alicia's totally right. We had a long discussion about border colors, and she just hates yellow. So in case anybody's wondering, what color flowers to get Alicia, yellow probably not a good idea. I'm just throwing that out. When she says vehemently against yellow, she is not exaggerating. She threatened me. Not gonna lie. But gold, yeah. Once I showed her this, I think she was pretty happy, especially because it was dark in areas and very almost whitish gold in some areas. So it really, the contrast I think helped keep it from looking too yellow. So yeah, that was. So anyway, yes, yes, there is that. But no, I just it was an interesting color theory and booze. Alicia does not exaggerate. She does have expertise in certain fields, and over me, those are two that, yeah, she can school me any day. Uh, ouch, ouch. Well, also, yeah, I didn't even bring up my show notes, so that's not helping me either. Keep on track. Uh, but yeah, how many of you have noticed the changes on Facebook over the last week? I think it was last Thursday they changed where they changed, well, actually, Facebook and Instagram, how they're doing different feeds. Because it's a little different. The way they're doing feeds and posts and suggested things is pretty different. The reports are, it's kind of, they're trying to make it seem more like TikTok is really the gist. They're really pushing, well, like Reels, those short form videos on both Facebook and Instagram. And it is, yeah, there's a lot of people that aren't really happy about it. Uh, I'm with you. I mean, the problem is they've been losing people to TikTok, so their goal is to try to bring people over from TikTok. But at the same time, the people that stayed are the people that don't like TikTok. They like the way Facebook is, or at least are more comfortable with it. So they're more likely to go, keep going. It's really crazy. I get the problem, and there's not really a good answer, but okay, Alicia's more on Instagram. Okay, yeah, it kind of is. I mean, I'd be more open to it if you had more control over what feeds, what posts you're showed. You have some. I have a couple of filters running on mine that some extensions in my browser that will filter out different things from Facebook, so that I don't get suggested feeds or anything. It's kind of nice. So definitely recommend some stuff like that if it bothers you too much. But I'm not quite sure about this new setup, how much I can filter out. So we'll see. Um, oh well, I mean that's pretty much most most companies in the world right now, because they have to constantly change to justify selling you a new product. So that's how they look at it these days. It's kind of sad. Yes, very true. Mm. And you're not wrong, Alicia. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. Ah, wow. Anyway, but yeah, I was just wondering how many of you noticed that. It's something I'm going to be looking at to see how much I can hide on my regular viewing of Facebook and Instagram, but also how it might affect the show and promotion. And hey, while we're talking about promotion, hey, while you're here, go ahead and share the feed. Hey, always appreciated. So yeah, share this feed on Facebook. It's always a good thing, and so true, so true. But yeah, another thing that happened over last weekend, because Comic-Con was going on, is the trailer for Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves came out. And I don't know, how many of you game? Do any of you, have any of you gamed before? Done much role-playing gaming in the past? Or is that just not really y'all's thing? Because I was doing it before I really, well, honestly, I started gaming about the same time I started going to Faire. So it was kind of at the same time. I don't think one necessarily influenced the other immediately, but it was interesting. You're not wrong, Alicia. That is a very good movie. Um, 40 years of D&D. Nice. And oh, Before Children. Yeah, that always changes things. That definitely does. Um, I was going to talk about that 2000 D&D film. Yes, that was a travesty. I think that's the good word for it. Yeah, it's a shame, because that movie had some good character actors in it. It really did. You had a producer who had so much trouble dealing with TSR and the investors back and forth, that he was forced to direct it. His directorial debut, and it was so many changes and pushing from different sides. TSR has always had a contentious time with the movies going back into the 80s. So much so that when people would get with them, when studios would get with them to try to make something, it would never come together, decade after decade. And when this finally did in 2000, ouch. They still made a couple of sequels to it that did not do well, straight to video. Now this, I don't know. It has an interesting cast. Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Hugh Grant, Regé-Jean Page, Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis. So I don't know. We'll see. The trailer kind of seems like they're going to really emphasize the comedy. Now, first trailers are usually not that much like the film, so I don't want to prejudge. But if they emphasize comedy too much, I don't think it's going to work, because it's going to take away from the action adventure. It's a fine balance. Think Indiana Jones, where you have the action adventure and some comedic moments that blend together and do it well. And that's sort of the trick. But of course, the blueprint for doing a good fantasy film, Lord of the Rings, is what people are tend to look at. But these guys, the directors and scriptwriters, John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, I mean, they did Spider-Man Homecoming, the script for that. So they at least understand the kind of regular guy superhero dynamic. So we'll see. It might work out. We'll see. Not quite sure. Yeah, I know. We'll see. Exactly. Kurt, I know it's easy to be skeptical, and I don't blame you at all. Um, yeah. Oh God, I hope not. I mean, honestly, if you go full comedy with it, a full comedy D&D, I mean, that could be like Star Trek with lower decks. I mean, it it could work if they really owned it and did it right. But I don't think that's this. It's looking like they're trying to really find a weird balance. The question is it going to hit or miss? Um, fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, right. Right. I know. We'll see. We'll see. But it doesn't. We've got lots of time. It doesn't come out until March of next year. So early trailer. We're gonna see more about it. For those of you, the game might be something to check out. Hopefully, something fun and an interesting cast. So here's hoping. But yeah, movies have disappointed me a lot over the last few years. Some might say it's because of COVID and studios holding back on doing films, and that's probably some of it. But we'll see. Maybe I'm just getting too critical because I've seen too many movies at this point. You never know. Well, anyway, going into the whole this is going to screw up my internet searches later thing. Are there any Beyonce fans out there? Because she is releasing a new album here at the end of the week on Friday, and it is called, wait for it, Renaissance. Yes, it's just called Renaissance. That's it. Now, the question is, does it have anything to do with the period of the Renaissance, or is it just the first definition? Okay, actually, let me go over here and do that. We'll just jump over here. Yeah, here we go. Renaissance. A rebirth or revival, or is it the actual period of time? And I think, unfortunately, it's looking like the rebirth or revival. Yeah. So of the songs, there's song titles like Break My Soul, Alien Superstar, Move, Virgo's Groove, America Has a Problem, and I'm That Girl. So really, yeah, this is just going to make searching for anything Renaissance Fair related a lot more difficult for the next 2 years. So just be prepared. You might want to set up a filter in your browser search for a negative Beyonce if you're not a fan. Just throwing it out. Yes, 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 yes. I like to surprise you now and then. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Oh man. Hey, at least I didn't talk about the camera. Oh, I almost got away with it. Oh well. Oh mercy. But okay. But also going into my little news articles that kind of popped into my feed of we'll title this, I wish I was surprised how many people don't get this, because it seems like most people don't. But let's see. James M. Banner Jr. For Humanities Magazine, which is the magazine for the National Endowment for the Humanities, did an article titled All History is Revisionist History. And it kind of made me think. Yeah, I tried to get that in for you. Since I threw in Beyonce, I figured I should mention it at least once. Just for y'all, just to make it, throw it in there once. But yeah, all history is revisionist history. And, a lot of people just don't seem to get this. The concept that they accept the simple truth that historians, whom they consider experts, disagree about the facts and what to make of them. And have for thousands of years. This is not a new phenomenon. It's not just disagreeing about the interpretation, it's disagreeing about everything. And people want certainty. And they have trouble accepting even the possibility that things aren't exactly how they're portrayed to them. Everybody's biased. Everybody comes from a point of bias. And it's hard. It's very difficult to put things into a good perspective. Somebody from the 1800s, their perspective on an historical event would be totally different than ours today. Now, this goes back to, well, in the article, it talks about how it goes back to Herodotus, known as the father of history. And yes, that is true, Susan, that history is written by the winners. And that's certainly one of the biases that you can do. But Herodotus started really looking at it, taking the gods out of the influence of all events and interviewing people and really trying to bring as much of an objectivity to history as they could back then, and even included social and cultural history as a part of it. And he goes into talk about how historians got away from that, and it's kind of an interesting read. So if you're curious, give that a look and a read. It is kind of interesting, but it is always scary how people don't seem to understand this bit of how historians work. And they started the article with a great line that I'm going to share with you, that a group of historians is known as an argumentation. That's the collective noun. So an argumentation of historians. I think that sums it up right there. I think it does. But yes, so there you go with a few things that caught my eye this past week. Because I'm talking, that's why, Alicia. It's very, yeah. And I totally agree, Kurt. I totally agree. Yes, so you can't ever say you don't learn something from this show. An argumentation of historians. Yes, I like it. Okay, well, let's jump over to the fairs going on this week, because there are a few. I was actually pleasantly surprised by how many. And here we go. Yeah. All right. Boom. Okay. Now we start off with a few from like last week. And get your feline senses going. Here comes the laser pointer. Yay! All right. Okay. Starting off with the Maine Renaissance Fair. This is the last weekend of it in Acton, Maine. And going over, of course, to Sterling Renaissance Festival is still going on. 3 more weekends there, so yay. Always fun. Then down in Maryland, we have the Ocean Renaissance Fair. This is in Ocean City, Maryland. It's 1 weekend only, Friday to Sunday. And if you want to say something called Ocean Renaissance is on the ocean, well, it is it's right on the edge of that map down there. So yes, very much the ocean right there. Oh, they don't want the cat to claw on the screen. I'm sorry about that. Then going over to Ohio, still going on is the Great Lakes Medieval Fair and Marketplace. 4 more weekends there, in Rock Creek, Ohio. And then up to Michigan. This is the last weekend of the Mid-Michigan Enchanted Forest in Vassar, Michigan. And moving over to Wisconsin, we have the Bristol Renaissance Fair. 6 more weekends there in Kenosha. And Wren in the Glen in Downing, Wisconsin. This is just 1 weekend, but something to check out if you're more in that area of Wisconsin, or just if you've already been to Bristol. Yay! Colorado Renaissance Festival is still going on in Larkspur. 2 more weekends left. They always fill up June and July of the year, and this year is no exception. So a couple more weekends left if you haven't been there. The Montana Renaissance Fair is starting up this weekend with 2 weekends, and that's a relatively new fair. They started last year, and it's definitely something to look at. I heard good reports from people about last year's. Then we go down to Long Beach, California, and yeah, you can kind of barely see it right here. It is the pirate invasion of Long Beach. 1 weekend only, and yes, so right next to the water, bunch of pirates in Long Beach. Something fun there. Then up in Oregon, we have the Canterbury Renaissance Fair is still going on for the last weekend in Silverton, Oregon. Now, I know what you're thinking. You might have seen it just right over here. A little bit of Canada. Yes. It's a little dark here with the black flag, but it is the Ontario Pirate Festival, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Gulf, Ontario, I think. Gulf, Ontario, Guelph. 1 weekend only, but it's not near water at all. So I'll be interested to try to read how they pull that off. Always fun. So there you go. The fair is going on. Oh, interesting. To get around Marketplace to get around Ohio's COVID restrictions. I did not know that. That is fascinating. That would be for the Great Lakes Medieval Fair and Marketplace. Um, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, Guelph. Guelph. Yes, I don't know. There aren't many fairs in Canada, and they're very close. I don't know if I should just like switch over to a Canadian map and have that on as like an addendum when Canadian fairs pop up. It's a good question. It's really a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm happy with this map. I think it kind of works. So extending it or doing more or a second map might be in order. I don't know. What do y'all think? Tell me. What do you think having a map of Canada would be kind of cool that I could just switch to when there's a Canadian fair and say, well, here you go, boom, and suddenly there's Canada, and you can see the states of the United States kind of right below it underneath, so you can kind of tell where everything is, because let's be honest, as Americans, we have no idea about the geography of any other country, even the ones right next to us. Knowing the different areas of Mexico, we have no idea. Um, no, we do not. So honestly, it would help with our geography knowledge. Okay. Okay. So I'll look into doing that and see how much time that's going to take me. This one was a long work in progress. I started with an earlier version of the map and did that for a little while, and then came up with a much better quality version, this one, and have been fiddling and tweaking it ever since. But I guess with that experience, I can do a new map and hopefully do a pretty good job right at the get-go. So okay. Well, while we have a moment, let's jump into 7 reasons while I'm here, because we're running out of time quick. Yeah, so I thought about 7 reasons, and we talked a lot about the whole the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. So I thought, let's do 7 reasons gaming helped prepare me for Ren Fair. Now, I told you that I kind of went at the same time, and I am kind of prepping for Gen Con right now, because I'll be leaving for Gen Con next week, pretty soon after the show next week. So I'm kind of in that gaming mindset. So let's just say 7 reasons gaming helped prepare me for Ren Fair. Well, there's the obvious one, of course, and that's roleplay. I mean, come on. I mean, when you put on a character and go out and act and perform at fair, I mean, unless you did a lot of acting in school, you probably don't have much experience with that, and gaming really helps get you into a character. So yes, that would be, I think it's kind of cool. Definitely a help. Number 8, the group dynamic, and performing with other people, having a common goal and getting that together. Again, if you weren't in an acting troupe for a while, you might not be as used to that. So it's really good for that, I think, in general. Number 5, fantasy clothing, because gaming, I mean, they always have tons of pictures in the books and your character sheet, and you put all of that together and you start looking at the look of your character and thinking about that. And while fantasy clothing isn't necessarily historically accurate, sometimes it's at least based on historical clothing to some extent, and that can be interesting. And once again, you always have a loose interpretation of history when it comes to clothing. You can, depending on what you're doing, you can have fun with it. So it's good to at least think about clothes for people like me who honestly, when I was younger, did not as much as I should have probably. So let's jump over to 4. My limits with caffeine and sugar. Believe me, that was helpful information to have, but when I started doing Faire, and the fact that I kind of knew where I was with that, how much sleep I would need to function, yes, it was always a good plan. So that really helped prepare. Otherwise, I would have been doing a lot of trial and error, and mostly error. Mostly error, definitely. Okay, number 3, the folly of over preparing, right? Because especially if you are running a game, you set up all of these notes and plans, and this is what they're going to do, and I'll lead them over here, and they never do it. They never do it. They always do other things that you don't expect and obsess about a random encounter and think that's the entire campaign and focus on that. And yeah, it's very. You learn that you make a plan, but 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be followed. It's there as a backup, or just to have that available. But usually you roll with it, and it was good to get into that mindset because it's easy to obsess about a plan, and you have to dissuade yourself of that quick at Faire. Number 2, terminology. Believe it or not, a lot of the terms you learn in Dungeons and Dragons, whether it's weapons or clothes or whatever, is a lot of it is historically accurate, and that really that really did give you a good base for a lot of information about medieval and Renaissance times. Believe it or not, I mean, at least a bit. So a surprise, more than you would expect, is how I'd phrase it. Yes, don't ever railroad interactions or your players. I totally agree with that, Alicia, very much. And the number one thing that I think I learned from gaming that helped prepare me for Ren Faire: pubs are the center of the universe. Gaming usually starts at a pub, it ends at a pub, and it really full arm trivia. You're not wrong. And when you go to Faire, I mean, when you're a kid, maybe not as much, but when you become an adult, pubs are that meeting place. Pubs are where people hang out, they talk, they go see some shows, they go to a pub. I mean, it's just, pubs are the thing at Faire, and that's kind of the center of everything. When you're just telling somebody where to go, you say, okay, well, there's that pub over there, and that's usually what people know direction-wise. So I think gaming definitely helped instill that in my brain. So yes. Oh well, I mean, Alicia, with your alcohol knowledge, I assume you don't just love the pub. You there's a worship level here. So I understand. That's where your people are. So totally. Anyway, woo. Okay, I didn't do bad. I can't believe I got all that, and it's only 7:34. Wow. I can't believe I managed to do this. Yes, that's very true. That is sort of the thing. Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I did want to go ahead and mention one last thing that for those of you that heard last week's show when I talked about the World's Fairs and a little bit of history there and how they influenced Ren Fairs to an extent. I did want to make clear one little tidbit that I may have. I got some feedback from people, and I realized I might not have made that clear. That I don't think they influenced Ren Fairs directly, but I think they influenced Fairs very much indirectly. Like they definitely influenced Disney World and Disneyland and Epcot. A lot of the Disney stuff very directly. And I think that, and certainly Disney influenced Ren Fairs. I mean, you have to, that directly for sure. Not early on. Ren Fairs were very about education and learning and history at the very beginning. But then people started looking at it as a money-making venture. Owners started creating fairs to make money. And of course, what do people like? And that's where it went from there. But anyway, and right, I thank you. That is good tidbit because Alicia is at the Colorado Fair. I didn't mention that while I was talking about Colorado 2 weekends left, and okay, across from the Celestial Stage. So if you go to the Colorado Fair in the next 2 weeks, go say hello to Alicia, because she's having a great time there, at least from everything she's told me, and yeah, a lot to enjoy. So enjoy, and whew, have another great week. I am busy prepping for Gen Con, and I will be for the next week. I'll have more to say about that on next Monday, but come join me for that. So have a wonderful time, a wonderful week, and as always, a fair life. Take care.